There was a time in Daniel Carter's life when everything he touched seemed to fall apart. A time when the world felt like it was stacked against him, when he questioned if the universe had something personal against him. But what Daniel didn't know back then was that he was being prepared, not punished. He was being tested, not tortured. Because before the universe changes your reality, it has to know, are you truly ready? Daniel grew up in a small town in Nebraska. His mother, Susan, was a school teacher. His father, Tom, ran a failing hardware store. Money was tight, but dreams were big. Daniel always believed he was meant for something greater than what surrounded him. Cornfields, rusted pickup trucks, and the same stories playing on the same radio stations. He used to sit in his room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly, whispering, "I know there's more. I just don't know how to get there." When he turned 18, Daniel left town with a duffel bag and a promise. "I'm going to make something of myself," he said to his mother, who stood teary-eyed on the porch. "Just wait and see." He moved to Los Angeles, the city of lights, the city of dreams, and quickly the city of heartbreak. First he thought it was just bad luck. Rejections from job interviews. Apartments that slipped through his fingers. Friendships that felt temporary. A stolen laptop that held his half-finished screenplay. And then there were the days when he had to choose between eating and taking the bus. One night, after getting kicked out of a cheap motel for not paying, Daniel sat on the curb under a flickering street lamp. It had rained earlier. His jeans were soaked at the bottom. His phone had 3% battery left, and nowhere to charge it. "Why?" he muttered. "Why does it feel like every time I try, something pulls me back down?" That night, he slept on a bench near Venice Beach, listening to the ocean crash against the shore like it was mocking him. But what Daniel couldn't see, what none of us see when we're in the middle of the storm, is that the universe never denies you, delays you, detours you. It disguises blessings as burdens just to test the depth of your desire. The next morning, Daniel found a flyer on the ground for a volunteer program at a community center. Free food, small stipend, and temporary housing included. He showed up not because he was excited but because he was exhausted. That's where he met Sarah Henderson. Sarah ran the center like it was her life's mission. Fierce, compassionate, and blunt in a way that felt like honesty rather than insult. She looked Daniel up and down, saw the fatigue in his eyes, and simply said, "You're not the first kid who came here thinking they were cursed. Help out. You might realize you're not broken. Just bent." At first, Daniel swept floors and passed out meals. Quiet. Head down. But over time he started talking to people. Learning their stories. Veterans, single moms, ex-convicts, runaway teens. And strangely, in their pain he found his peace. One man, Marcus, used to be a jazz musician. Lost everything to addiction. But every Friday he'd bring out a broken saxophone and play. The notes weren't perfect, but the soul behind them shook something awake in Daniel. He asked Marcus once, "How do you still play like that? After everything?" Marcus smiled, a crooked-toothed grin, and said, "Because pain ain't the end. Sometimes it's just the prelude." That stuck with Daniel. He stayed at the center longer than he'd planned. 1 week turned into 6 months. He got stronger. Mentally. Emotionally. He started writing again. This time, not a screenplay about fame or fortune, but about the people he met. About resilience. About reality and how it bends for those who refuse to break. Then one day, Sarah pulled him aside and said, "There's a media program run by a local producer I know. They're looking for real stories. Not Hollywood glitz. Your writing, there's something raw in it. I think it's time you share it." Daniel hesitated. That old voice returned. The voice that says, "What if you're not enough?" But then he remembered all the people who had opened up to him. The bench by the beach. The broken saxophone. And he said yes. The producer's name was Jeremy Dalton. Veteran of documentary storytelling. He read Daniel's script and asked, "Is this fiction?" "No," Daniel replied. "It's life." Jeremy offered him a job. Not glamorous, not high-paying. just enough to get by. But the spark was lit. Months passed. Daniel's storytelling evolved. He became the guy people came to when they wanted their truth told. Raw, unfiltered, human. His mini-documentary about the life of Marcus, the jazz man, went viral. Soundtrack of survival, they called it. Millions watched. Tears flowed. Donations poured in for the community center. Opportunities started knocking. Streaming platforms, speaking gigs, book deals. But Daniel never forgot the lesson the universe taught him. Because he realized something. The universe doesn't test you because it's cruel. Tests you because it's sacred. It knows that if it gave you the life you dream of before you were ready, you'd fumble it. So it waits, watches. It sends lessons disguised as losses, and mentors dressed as strangers. One day he returned to Nebraska. Walked back to that porch where his mom stood years ago. She opened the door, tears in her eyes again, but this time with pride. "You did it," she said. "I'm just getting started," Daniel replied. 'Cause that's the thing. When you survive the universe's tests, when you rise from rejection, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" your reality changes. And not by chance, by choice, by character. Now Daniel speaks to others who feel lost. He looks them in the eye and says, "The universe is not against you. It's building you. So don't quit in the dip. Don't surrender in the silence. The story isn't over. You're just being tested." And perhaps right now, as you hear these words, you're in that season too. Maybe you feel like you've tried everything. Like the harder you push, the more things fall apart. But I promise you, if you're facing pressure, it's because something inside you is being molded. Your strength, your resolve, your clarity. The universe will not elevate the version of you that doubts your worth. It will push, pull, and pummel you until all the fake layers fall away. And what remains is the real you, the ready you. So if you're tired, rest. But don't quit. If you're broken, heal. But don't hide. If you're afraid, feel it. But don't freeze. Keep walking. Keep rising. Because one day, sooner than you think, you'll look back on these painful chapters and realize they were necessary. They weren't setbacks. They were setups for a new version of you, for a new reality. And in that moment you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. So remember this. The universe tests the ones it trusts the most. And if you're being tested, then maybe, just maybe, it means your transformation is near.